Hello and welcome to my channel, Leaders in Making, educative, informative platform for all people who are visiting our channel for their career grooming, career coaching, and to build a very, very successful career ahead. Today, I'm extremely happy to welcome one of my very dear student, Mr. Jatin Munjal, working as a team lead in an MNC in Treasury, and which is also called Wealth Management, Liquidity Management. And my tenure with Jatin was, since very, very long. We are associated, I think, almost 8 to 10 years now. And the kind of hard work, sincerity, Jatin has showed in his career, that is the reason he's there today. So I heartily welcome you, Jatin, on my first podcast series for freshers, beginners, and even for professionals, because I think when you're already there in the industry from 7 to 8 years, in this podcast, you can definitely guide people, not just the beginners or freshers, but I'm sure your experience will add great value to people who want to come in this function, in this industry as a team lead as well. So I welcome you personally, and I want you to request you to introduce yourself to all our viewers just in brief. Over to you, Jatin.
A very good afternoon, ma'am, and thank you for having me on your channel. So, currently I'm working as a team manager and I'm leading a team of 12. So, basically, the line of business to which we are related is treasury. So, that leads to working capital management and liquidity management from a 50,000 feet overview. I would say that yes, we are just concerned with daily liquidity management and helping the firm to achieve the organizational objectives so that they don't have a cash crunch or too much cash. So that's what we do. We optimize the cash resources and the current balances that the firm has so that it can be invested in a correct place and yield the maximum returns possible. So I
But
think I would like to open the floor to you to take it down.
before we move ahead to your profile, because I'm very excited to inquire about few shift and turns you have taken it in your career, I wanted you to explain to a layman what do you mean by wealth management, liquidity management, or treasury, just in brief for them.
Yeah. So in very basic, treasury is related about managing the cash.
Okay,
Even if I take it in a layman language, I would say treasury is a profile which allude to having enough cash whenever needed. So let's say even if we are taking the example of a home or a personal life also, we can take a personal life example. If a
sure.
person has to manage his expenses, so he should know, okay, at mid-month I will be paying my rent expenses. So for that rent, either I should have enough bank balance or cash in hand to make those expenses. So if I shift these to corporates, so what we do on daily basis is we see, okay, the firm has these outstanding invoices to pay. So we make sure that we have enough money in the accounts to make those invoices. Or we see, okay, the firm has upcoming dividend payments and dividend payments are huge in billions. So we have to ensure that we have enough liquidity so that we can make these funding. So this is what is primary role of treasury is to manage the liquidity risk and a default risk, because there can be the situations where firm have enough goodwill, enough assets, but those assets are in strategies where they cannot pull out the money. And even after having a positive growth rate, there are cases when the firm would be in a position where they can go under a default because they do not have enough liquidity. So the treasury main role is to provide enough liquidity to manage daily expenses. That is, I would say, in one line would be a way to explain what treasury does.
Wonderfully explained. I think that's a very, very brief and a very short way of looking and, a short way of explaining it, a quick nuggets. And I'm sure this is really going to help people who want to come into this specific function of wealth management or liquidity management. One burning question, which is already in my mind since long, from BSc undergraduation, hospitality and hotel management and administration, you have made a mark in your financial career and specialization. What motivated you? What encouraged you to move from hospitality, hotel administration to becoming a person you are in finance today?
Yeah, so yes, definitely in my undergrad, like even in my graduations, I went for hotel management. And even now, like I would say I do hold a hobby of cooking. So I love cooking. And even I started my career as a chef, like for 2, 3 months, I worked in good 5-star chains. But even with that, I do like had an interest in stock markets. I do follow stock markets very closely even today as well. So then I realized that this is place I want to be after some time, and I kind of like I took a break for 5, 6 months, and then I did my MBA and pursued like what I wanted to. So like my first job like was in investment operations, where it was totally in relation to stock markets, where I was confirming the trades, and that was like linked to various indices around the world. So
Wonderful.
that
Wonderful.
interest of stock market like was, I would say, the major driver for
Okay.
me to have a shift from hospitality to finance, because of course these fields are not in line, but having that interest was the only motivator, I would say.
Okay, when I was going through your profile, I saw that you have done the certification of Bombay Stock Exchange and even financial modeling. And while your
Yes.
first job was as analyst in an MNC as investment operations, how would you like to guide people who wanted to do these certification vis-a-vis how these two certifications contributed to your first job as analyst and that too into investment operations?
Yeah, so even in investment operations, we do use a lot of Excel and a lot of valuation. So just since I was like very interested in the stock market, so I was kind of like motivated towards to get more knowledge. So that's the reason. So only I would say motivation to do these certifications was to have more knowledge. It was not something in my mind, okay, that if I'll do this certification, it will help me in my job. Eventually, these things did help in my job, but that was not like my first priority. My first priority was to just gain the knowledge. But when I started learning these, definitely these certifications, financial modeling helped to improve my Excel skills, which helped in my day-to-day job. And of course, it helped me in terms of valuing the other stocks. But that was not what I was doing at the job, but that was like something I was interested in doing. So I used to do that side by side, even with my basic like investment operations or profile that I was doing. So these two things I would say were the motivators. So of course, having good Excel knowledge, having good knowledge of valuations, reading the financial statements is, I would say, any day plus to have. And I would kind of like recommend this to all the freshers like who want to start their career in finance, that they must have like good Excel knowledge, good knowledge to read the financial statements. They should be comfortable in comparing the balance sheet from one year to previous year and see the anomalies which they can find. This is something I would say, like if these things interest, then only they should proceed ahead while making the career in finance, because these are the things like which eventually they will be doing.
Wonderful. In fact, I was about to ask this from you that, Excel, advanced Excel is a must for any job role today. Whether you move
Yes.
into financial function, you move into marketing, you move into HR, you move into any analytics for the specialization. Excel is definitely the need of the hour and is going to be. Can you suggest few important Excel, advanced Excel functions, which is must for beginners, not only for financial functions, but it is common across all specializations?
Yeah, so definitely I would say, like moving from the basic Excel, I would say one should be good in basic to reach to advanced. So in basic, like one should focus on how they are using the referencing of the cells. Because many times I see like when we interview candidates, they are good with using the formula, but they generally do not reference the formula, and that doesn't make the sheets dynamic. So while working on spreadsheets, the first thing to be very focused is how dynamic the spreadsheet is. Like if someone is making some change on, let's say, part one, it should automatically be updated in the second part, and everything should be linked. So first thing is like how you are using referencing. Once like you're good and comfortable with referencing and basic functions of sum ifs, count ifs, VLOOKUPs, then definitely while moving to the advanced, we can go with power pivots, because the need of the hour is to visualize the data. If you cannot visualize the data of 10,000 rows or 20,000 rows in a good charts, which can represent in a good charts or even in good tables, like which can represent how the trajectory has been. And the main thing is like how easy, readable, and comparable the data is, so that the senior management can have the insight. So either, like I would say, even using Power Pivots, there folks can use timelines, they can use slicers, and make a very good dashboard using Power Pivots. So this is something like which will give management a view that okay, like these were like our dividend payments in last year, these are now, these are like are forecasted in future. So all those things give an insight, a picture. So I think it depends like how good you represent the growth story or any data, so that if someone senior is looking into it, they can find out like this is an anomaly, like this figure should not be like this. At least they have, and they can just point out in 4 to 5 minutes, and this can save a lot of time for the senior management, like if we are presenting these dashboards. So of course, so I would say like in Excel, the journey should be from basic, where like we are good with referencing, where we are good with making things dynamic, then moving on to pivots, using index match, direct address, all these things just to make sure that the spreadsheets are dynamic. And of course, apart from Excel, there are other tools available in the market. I would say Tableau is there, Power BI is there. Power BI, I would say, is like very simple, which if you have good command over pivots, then using Power BI is also very simple. And Power BI is a great visualization tool, I would say. And it's pretty common in industry these days, because every management like they need to see dashboards and charts. So I think that's where like these visualization tools comes into place. And even these profiles kind of like interlink with what data analysts are doing. They are also kind of like cleaning the data, making the data readable. And this is also a very good role, like which is, I would say, in trajectory with finance, and like folks are coming into a fintech role.
Okay. So when you're talking about the Excel and the contribution of data cleaning and the contribution of fintech into that, would you like to recommend any certification since you're already into that business? Would you like to recommend some certifications for freshers or people with little experience but want to do a certification in Excel or advanced Excel? Which certification would you recommend, which is a corporate fit for that?
Yeah, I would say from the knowledge standpoint of view, using any portal like Simply Learn or Udemy, wherein they can focus on a vast area and cover at least 2 3 tools. Like if they are doing Excel, with Excel, I think they should do Power BI and SQL, so that at least they are good for the business analytics profile. Because SQL is used to like pull in the good sources of data. Let's say the data like which is not uh, compatible like in Excel can be pulled out from SQL, and then if they need certain sets and tables, then this can be further pulled into Excel and then like visualize with Power BI. So I would say at least have these 3 tools, at least SQL, Excel, Power BI, and Tableau. So these 4 tools would be a good fit for any business analytics or data analytics profile.
Okay. And
And
you expect that
just to
Simply
clear, like,
Learn, Udemy, it will be good for that.
yes, definitely.
Okay.
Simply Learn or Udemy, there are ample of courses available. So it's up to them, like whether they want to just go for a business analytics course and have a good grasp on these tools, or I would say it's up to them, like if they want to individually just go and learn these tools, Excel, SQL, and then make the application. So that's totally the choice of the candidates, like who want to pursue these courses. Apart from that, I would say like many times I see like students, they kind of like confused between like what is data analytics and what is data science, because there is a good difference between data analytics and data science. Because data analytics is just related with cleaning the data, getting the data, and providing the data visualization to the senior management so that they can make quick decisions. But then there comes like data science, which actually involve a lot more than what is there in data analytics. So data science is, I would say, like it's a very vast term. And they're like, of course you would need all these tools, Excel, Power BI, Tableau, but that's not the end in data science. It's just the beginning, because we would be like pivoting to other tools like Python, R, then Then there's like a lot of mathematical calculations and statistics involved in data science, wherein we can make the forecast and make the future predictions. And also, the folks working in the data science fields are so well equipped that they at times like they develop the app whenever required to automate stuff. So that's what like data scientists pivoted to, and that's what like data analytics. So I think just before making this choice, whether you want data science or data analytics, one should know like what's their primary goal is.
I'm so thankful for covering this in detail, Jatin, because yes, a lot of people are getting much confused between data analytics, data scientist role, even data engineer role as well. And you have
Yes.
given a
Yes.
very beautiful explanation, especially for beginners who wanted to differentiate that where they actually want to contribute and in which
Yes.
area specifically. Now, while you have started your first profile as into the investment operations as well, I would like you
Yes.
to explain a little bit that what was your role or responsibility specifically related to investment operations for an MNC?
Yeah. So while working in the investment operations domain, what what our role was like, our role was as a firewall. Like we were doing quality check of all the trades that were feeding into our queue. So we used to do a quality check of like what portfolio managers or traders ask for the order, has has it like been executed and confirmed. And then post the confirmation, the trade life cycle is like we receive the trade orders, then it flows to a system wherein like we confirm and then we match it on a platform. And post matching, we also check for the settlement. So in general, like in India market, like equity settlement works on T+2. So like nowadays, like it's shifted to T+1 as well. So that's what we used to follow in major markets where like the equity settlement is T+2 or T+1. So we used to confirm those trades and then also check for if they have settled successfully or not. Because if you are trading personally, I think settlement is not an issue because it's just a personal portfolio to see. But when it's a firm's portfolio where like you have thousands of trades on daily basis, then settlement also comes into role because it's not necessary that all the trades which have been executed and confirmed will get settled. So there are cases like where the trade get fails and then like and there is like a buy-in risk also involved on back of it. So our job was to make sure that the trades were confirmed and settled on timely basis. And if there is a buy-in risk where like the firm is obliged to provide the delivery to some other firm, that is communicated to the other party and the onus is shifted to the other party for those risks.
So,
So
do you
this
think
this was the risk point.
Sure. Do you think this needs a specific certification for investment understanding? Because, you know, investment operations, investment banking is still a buzzword, and people really want to move into this because maybe they feel that it is something related to only the investment part. So, you know, any specific certifications or for
But
people who want to come specifically into investments?
yeah, I would say like if someone is good with the basic MBA knowledge, like they have good knowledge of all these instruments, like NDF, equity, fixed income trades, also like OTC trades, hybrid securities. If someone is good with all these basic understandings, they are good with what are the basic corporate actions, like what is bank reconciliation statement, like where they can reconcile the asset recons and cash recons. If they are comfortable in making all those things, I would say there is no certification required. But yes, if you feel that there is a lag, there there is lag or a knowledge gap, I would say definitely then they can search for certifications on NSC because those certifications are specifically related to capital markets. So they will cover like what all good instruments that uh, they will cover like all the financial instruments, and that is like what is the basic requirement. The one should be comfortable, one should know like what is a non-deliverable forward, like what is an equity trade, like how does an option work. Because if you are confirming those things, one should have the basic knowledge of all these instruments. So having these basic knowledge of all these instruments, and I think it's covered like in any other also certification, I would say, whether it's CFA, whether it's FRM, even in those basic certifications, these subjects and topics are covered because this is the basic that anyone interested in finance field should know.
Okay. And how did your journey change from an analyst to a senior analyst and now to a team lead of 12 people? what you feel your role responsibility changed during all these years and these roles?
In a one word, I would say like it was just taking more responsibility. So even if like I started as an analyst, I had that vision of taking more responsibility and looking to my left and right. So I think knowing my left and right, I would say like the other teams like which were working in conjunction was a major win because that that thing and the connects that we build within the organization was also a major driver because if you have to resolve some issue, at least you know like what's the input, what's the output, and if you have that knowledge on your tips, and then I think you can play with the process while working in the organization. If you are just like with your bended heads just working straight to your work and not looking here and there, like not getting to know what's the exact impact that we are making, then of course it would be difficult to grow. But when you know like what's the whole process line starting from point A to Z, I would say, then it becomes like really easy because you have everything on top of your head, you know, like persons from the various teams which can resolve those issues. Those floor connections was a, I would say, major win to resolve these issues because you cannot do everything. You won't have like all the accesses, so their connection and the relationship buildings comes into the place. Of course, the knowledge of the process that you are doing is the must, and it's like how you want to see yourself. That's, I would say, the major driver. Like if you see that okay, you are the one leading the team, then I think it's even if it's any field, I think you will be there like in some time if you
So,
have that vision.
so what I am so happy to hear this today that you were gaining knowledge day by day, but you were also making excellent professional relationship at work, and that is the reason you are here today. So while I was
Yes.
looking at your profile, I do see your career objective when you have talked about meeting deadlines, making something new, innovating something new, and making the environment to learn. Would you like to elaborate a little on this for the freshers who need to learn that how to meet the deadlines? And what do you mean by a deadline? It is just matching your work with the date, time, or is it something else?
Yeah, meeting deadlines or working well with deadlines is because we are in a finance industry and everything has a deadline. Even if like you have to submit your audited reports, even if you have to submit like 10K, 10Q statements, you have to submit cash line audit, like you have to submit unfunded commitment. Every these things have a deadline, and these things kind of like goes into the company's financial statements, like which are public. So of course, meeting deadline is important in addition to the accuracy of the data because the data on which we sit is public, and many like investors and underwriters, they do make decisions based on that. So of course like we have to work well with deadlines, and also there are two stages of deadlines. One is like for the reporting deadlines and the other one is like the currency cutoffs. So if we are operating in a live market, let's say euro GBP, where like we know okay at 7 or 8 we post that like we won't be able to make trades because the market for that particular currency will not be working anymore for the rest of the day. So if we have certain trades to be executed and settled, so of course, like we have to be on top of it. So working well with deadline is like just prioritizing the list of the work that you have in a day and what the P1 level and what P2 and P3 and planning the day and moving ahead. So of course, like if there are same day trades like which will be settling on same day, that will be in a P1 priority list. And of course, there is something with reporting where we have a good window of 10 days, 12 days. Definitely, we can mark that as P2 and P3
Okay. So
in
do you
my case.
remember an occasion wherein you were falling short of your deadlines?
Yeah, definitely. I think in if there are these situations, but in the kind of industry in which we are, so I think in these steps, what we do is just to escalate these things well in advance. If we know that we have a lot on our plate to take the help, because I think there is many folks like who are in I would say like 0 to 3 years of work range. They are working and at times like they are not confident enough like to ask for the help. So this is something I would say, like, there is no, I would say, stupid request or stupid question in the corporate world. I think if you are in a situation where you cannot handle a lot a lot of volume or something, I think one should raise hand and escalate well in advance, instead of like anyone like over in that organization would like to have the work completed rather than having a failed rate,
Wonderful.
because that costs money.
I understand. And when you mentioned that you were working as a facilitator for cross-functional training, what was that?
So currently, like, I'm leading two sub teams. So like, first team is like majorly geared towards managing the external credit lines, and the other team is more towards treasury analytics. So just to, although like it's a one team, but just to facilitate the cross training, what we do is like we draw a line of sand, I would say, in just between, so that like the training can be facilitated. But once the folk start getting trained, then there is an issue where people thinks, okay, that I'm working on the credit facility lines only, and the other person thinks, okay, like I'm working on the treasury analytics part, and they don't expand. So what we do is like we generally try to shift like folks from one area to another, because it's in between the teams, so that everyone is cross trained and have a good backup planning, and everyone can also work as a floater player. Like if someone is not there, they can cover two tasks, or so that's, I would say, like the need. And it's also enhance their skills as well, because it there increases their exposures, I would say, horizontally.
Okay, wonderful. I think that is going to gain a lot of experience while you are even working at a later stage with cross-culture people as well.
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
so coming back to our focus, especially on beginners or freshers, what financial profiles you feel are involving for freshers in today's market?
So in today's market, I would say definitely the profiles like investment operations, business operations for finance. I would say it's a good start
Okay,
to have these profiles. Maybe like if someone has good interest in corporate actions, so corporate actions is also a very hot profile, and that is also something like which keeps you motivated and challenged. So therein, like, there are corporate actions like dividends, spin-offs, split-offs, reverse splits. So if someone has interest in those areas, and I would say even in corporate actions, there are so many exceptions because every market operate differently. So that is one of the major driver, I would say. If someone is interested to work on all these things, then corporate action is a good area. Then then there are areas like trade support, wherein you are working, confirm the trades, doing a quality check, doing those settlements, and making sure that all what has been executed has been settled smoothly. So this is like very brief overview which I'm giving of the trade support.
sure.
So these are the areas. Then there is settlement. Then there are like post settlements. There is like a reconciliation profiles. In reconciliations, either it can be the asset reconciliations and the cash reconciliations, which a firm profile where they see, okay, that these should have been the assets on our book, but in general, when you reconcile, there are differences, and we make out like what is causing a difference. So these then there are like static data update. Like these are static data updates related to the updates like which are there in the system, and which kind of like alludes to the profile, which do legal entity identifier setups. I would say QSIP setups, ISIN setups, all these things are set up in the organization's system. So there are these static data setup teams. Then there are teams like which are alluded towards doing KYC and uh, KYC and additional callbacks, I would say, to make sure that all the due diligence is in place. So these, I would say, are the areas like for all the freshers, like I think, which are always open in the finance
Okay.
stream.
Okay. I'm sure our listeners, viewers will have a great idea from the explanation you have given on various profiles if someone want to come into the field of finance. What kind of salary range do you think the freshers should expect nowadays, and also the supplements with their internships and projects?
Mm, yeah, I would say like the freshers should like I think after doing MBA, the freshers like even I would say MBA from a decent college, then I think this range, I think in the finance industry would is somewhere like between 7 to 11 lakh per annum.
Okay. So do you think that should be the initial CTC they should expect?
Yes, yes.
Okay, okay. And you were also talking about some fintech career requirements or options upcoming greatly in the market today. Would you like to guide our people here? Because fintech is definitely a buzzword today also. So what they can expect from themselves and from the industry if they really want to go ahead with this option?
Yeah, so I would say, since like even I think Mukesh Ambani I think once mentioned that the data is new fuel. So that point, like data is new fuel, is true. So like yes, if someone is like good in data analytics, is good with handling the data and also have a good knowledge of finance. So
Okay,
that fintech is nowadays like is an essential, because there can be cases where like while they interview, if someone is having good knowledge of Excel, good knowledge of SQL and some other tools, maybe Python, and they know that okay, that person can also help is in developing applications, or and can also at least help in moving the projects forward with the projects team. So that is like a plus for them, and they would kind of like overrate a person with having a good technical knowledge. Then even if the finance knowledge is okay, because there are already folks in the industry like with the good finance knowledge, and if they see someone with a good technical hold on all these applications with a basic finance knowledge as well, I think they will have an edge over the other candidates. So that's I think what is the requirement of the time, because the way in which we are tracking data these days. So I think everything is tracked. Like even if you are walking for an hour, I think your steps are tracked. Even if you're wearing an Apple Watch, like your heartbeat is tracked. So all these data can be used in a good way to make decisions, because maybe I think we can think of a case like these. Our health tracking can be shared like with the insurance companies, and if that Apple Watch is giving I would say like a clear picture of data that okay, the heartbeat of this person is like not normal, then maybe like next time when we will be reviewing our medical insurance, it would cost a little higher, because the insurance companies would have these data. So that's, I would say, where like this industry is alluding to, that they are using the data to an extent possible.
wonderful. And what do you feel that how the financial market has changed, especially post-COVID?
So I would say, like if I would say to in the growth story of India, I would say that is good. But when we kind of like see this in context to a global economy, of course, the economy is not performing that good, because even I think World Bank also has confirmed that like we are kind of like leading towards a recession, because this time like the growth has been degraded like 1.7% in comparison to previous years. So
Sure.
specifically in in other economies, like we can see uh, big companies laying off staff. So there is, I would say, it's like very hard to comment on these things, but definitely we are in a stage like reaching maybe towards recession, but that's what like the experts are suggesting, I would say. So even I think, but even if we are reaching towards a recession, I think everyone I think gets a chance, because I think there could be cases like where during the recessions like the placements can be low, but definitely I think everything like revamps and everything's kind of like rises. And even if you see like the number of startups, the number of unicorns that build, uh, they generally start during recessions, because the cost of the initial capital is low, and I think and in long run kind of like they benefit on that. So and I think many good companies like what they do is they do store a good reserve of capital, like which they call it as dry powder, so
Oh,
that they can make use of these opportunities in recession. Because if they know that we are forecasting a recession, they know that okay, resources will be cheaper, share prices will be cheaper, and at that time when everyone is selling, and they are the one like I think the real wealth creators who start investing at that time of recession, and I think they hold on it, they sit long for 5 6 years, and they start selling when the rest of the world start buying. So I think that's I think that's the secret to creating the wealth. Of course, it's not easy, because when you see okay, daily the stock prices are falling on from the price on which you have start purchasing, and no one know like from where to start and where to sell. So that's but that's the I would say like that's the secret to create the wealth, and that's what like good companies they do.
I'm sure people are going to really cherish your secretive nuggets. And before I move on, I would, before we move on to closure, I still have two important, inputs needed from you. The first one being the need of CFA and FRM. And the last would be the parting notes would be on what you would really suggest, maybe 3 or 5 things which you feel that yes, freshers cannot miss if they want to come into the financial specializations or financial industry or function. So before I move on, I would just like you to let us know some inputs on these two areas.
So yes, I would say like CFA and FRM they are becoming very popular these days. So in I would say these certifications are I would say definitely good to have on plate, but I would not say that these are the necessity. Like if someone has studied like very well during their MBA and they are confident enough that they
Okay.
know each and everything. So I think the basic cusp of this is like how good knowledge that you have. If you're gaining that knowledge from doing CFA, that's also good. Like if you're getting that knowledge after doing FRM, that's also good. Even if you're studying the MBA curriculum very seriously and you are just updated like with the new advancements and like the new technologies, so then also like it's fine. If someone is having good hold on all the basics and all the instruments that we use in finance world and they are good with all the legal terms that we use in all the laws. They are good with like IFRS standards. They are good with GAAP, and I think then there is like no need of CFA or FRM. But definitely, uh, like these things add to the CV. And if you are kind of like going into a consulting role, then CFA and FRM I would say is very advantageous because in at times how consulting works is wherein like one firm is doing the business for other firm and they present your CV to the client firm. And so these things too, like CFA, FRM, like if you have these things, definitely this look good on your resume. And like it makes it easier for consultants to shortlist your CV in comparison to others. So that's where I think these certifications does comes into play because it helps to sell your resume, I would say, in very simple language. So definitely, yes, these certifications do add a lot of advantages, and definitely, if you are a CFA charter holder, the kind of exposure and the kind of community in which you will be is way better. So you get to kind of like connect with folks who are studying, and I think you get in like you always stay in touch of studying and refreshing your knowledge. So I would say yes, definitely it's good to invest in yourself and study like as much as possible. Of course, if you have a good like knowledge in MBA, it's not a must thing to do.
Okay.
Like,
Okay. And do you think this fetches more money also during the job offers or the salary negotiations?
I think I would say like this totally depends on the candidate, like how confident and how knowledgeable he is, and how the interviewer is looking forward to work with that candidate. Like if they thinks that they definitely want this person to join their team, definitely they will also pay a little extra to get
Okay.
that person onboarded. So
Okay.
definitely, I think it stays. It depends on like what you are saying in the interview and how like you're creating your impression while that interview and how the interviewer feels like your attitude is. Because I would say even if a person is having little less knowledge but is very good on like attitude and if the interviewer can gauge that, definitely they would know that okay that they are hiring an asset. And of course all these skills can be transmitted, but definitely to build a good hardworking and I would say honest attitude that the person should have in the finance industry is I think also a place where interviews definitely look for, because they would say okay, even if a person is like 40% knowledgeable but like the attitude it is like somewhere like 80 to 90%, I think the person would be a must go,
One.
because they know that okay this is the guy like who will be an asset to the firm in long run.
Okay. So you mean to say the transferable skills and the attitude really matters along with the technical skills in the market today?
Yes, yes, definitely.
Okay. Okay.
Because even if you know that someone is like too knowledgeable, but has that attitude of like not being flexible, not uh, have an attitude of like switching jobs very frequently, or even if someone has like attitude of misbehaving also. So these
Oh,
are the things like which are not at all acceptable in these industries. So definitely like attitude matters a lot.
okay. And you were also talking about some strong finance IT knowledge in the early stages of your job, though you have already explained a lot of certifications, about Excel also. But what additional you feel is a must for people specifically related to finance IT knowledge when you go for the financial jobs in the market?
Yeah, the first thing I would say is like everyone like should have basic finance knowledge where they are good with the basic concepts, like even as basic concepts as time value of money, how they're calculating VAT, weighted average cost of capital, CAPM, all these things, of course, should be a mandate, like how comfortable they are with basic accounting concepts before going into like an interview. Definitely, these are the basic questions which someone would check and ask like in the interview to the freshers. Apart from that, the areas like which are checked is like how good a person is in Excel or any other additional tool. So
Okay.
having a good finance knowledge plus having a good working knowledge of Excel, having a good working knowledge of Tableau, having a good working knowledge of Power BI is, I would say, like very essential if you want to build a strong career in finance. And definitely, if someone has small certifications like which do not take a lot of efforts, so there are tools like Bloomberg. So there are certifications for Bloomberg wherein like you are wherein in like in good B schools, I would say like there is already a Bloomberg terminal, but Bloomberg terminals are not in every B school.
Okay.
So those like who do not have access to Bloomberg in their college, I think definitely I think they can take an extra step and do
Okay.
that Bloomberg certification. That also adds to their resume, and and also like it shows like how up to date you are like with the industry standards, because Bloomberg is a tool like used almost like in every investment bank. They use like Bloomberg as their primary tool to fetch the data for the
Okay.
FX rates or for any instruments like which they are using. So definitely a Bloomberg certification is a plus, which they
Okay.
can do. Certifications like which are available on National Stock Exchange. This is something like which person can do, because these are not something like which will take a lot of effort and lot of investment initially, and these are some quick wins which the candidates can do, and like it adds to the resume. Also, if they someone can do like minor certifications on Excel, I would say courses like related to SQL as well, because in finance industries like SQL is very important. Like if they're good with writing the queries to fetch the data and to modify the data, that is also like very essential. So these are I would say the strong these areas like should be strong. If you're strong in these areas, then I think definitely the folks are job ready. Definitely one should know how to like use the Microsoft Office package completely, which includes like Excel, Outlook, Word, Access, because they would be using like other, of course, like Excel would be the major use, but they will there can be cases like where they are using MS Access. So
Okay.
many firms like they use Access as the database instead of using SQL for a certain business segment. They can be using Access. So if they have good command on Access as well, that would be a plus. And definitely like one should be good with using Outlook. One should have like basic email etiquettes, like how to write these emails, and because these are the things like which won't waste time for the person like who are training them, because they know that okay, like they are tech savvy, they are good like with emails and stuff, they are good with using Word, PowerPoint, all these tools. So it makes the training process while onboarding the candidates like very smooth.
Okay. Now, being from the field of recruitment, training, and development, my very important area, which is very close to my heart, is recruitment. How you feel the freshers should approach their profile, in terms of getting recruited to good organizations? What you will
So
recommend to people in 2023?
yeah, so I would say I think it's whether it's be any year, I would say like if you want to get recruited in finance, one should have a good basic finance knowledge. In addition to that, they should have a good aptitude, because many good organizations they would take their aptitude test and many times like aptitude test is clubbed with basic Excel test as well. So these things are like the major shortlisting criteria. So you'll definitely have to clear an aptitude. You'll definitely have to clear the Excel test. Then you will have the further interview rounds where your basic finance knowledge will be tested. And of course, even the interviews there can also like check you on Excel, like what you are like how practical the knowledge is, like if they're giving you a different situation and how capable you are to make these amendments in Excel, and they can ask you to do a screen share and make certain formulas. So even these things do
Okay.
happen at times of interviews. And also, I would say the EQ should be EQ should be strong, like how they can handle things in a good situations, like where they have to make emotional calls. So they should be strong on their EQ as well. And apart from that, there are like different ways, like where psychometric test, like wherein they check like how good the candidate is in comparing the data. And it can be like simply like comparing one number to another numbers in those profiles where they have to make a lot of confirmations, because in confirmations, like what basically they are checking like how good you are in matching stuff. So these are all those like very small things like which can be tested, and like the overall attitude and definitely the communication skills is also like very important part, like how you communicate and present yourself, and how good you are in communication is also one of the key contributor to this recruitment process.
Sure, you have wonderfully explained what all is needed in a fresher or a beginner to land up in a beautiful financial specialization. What I wanted to know from you in little, detail that LinkedIn is definitely a beautiful professional platform. So when people are applying on campus, off campus, then there are platforms like LinkedIn, Naukri.com. What best way will you suggest to your fraternity, people in your fraternity, beginners, freshers, even with little experience, 0 to 3 years? What should be their best way to approach a company?
Yeah, I would say like definitely if you have someone known in the company and they can directly link you with the HR and the recruitment person, then I think I would say that is the best way,
Okay.
because someone is personally reaching out to the HR and getting the interview schedule. So that is somehow like a quick way to get the updates, because you already know someone there, and like the interview gets scheduled quickly. Of course, if you don't know anyone, I think applying on Naukri.com or LinkedIn is also one way, because there are firms like which do take your applications very seriously. Even if they do not shortlist you, at least they will email and acknowledge that okay, like your candidature is not being taken further. So I think I would say like one must be open to all portals, but at times like what freshers do is like they also apply on LinkedIn and then they also like reach out to someone in that organization. So I think at that time, uh, the candidate like should make one call, like whether they want to follow the LinkedIn path or they want to follow that particular referral path, because I think it creates a conflict of interest. Because if a person is reaching out personally and then the HR says, okay, like we already have this resume through our portal,
Okay. Okay. Okay.
so I think in I think these are, because I think I also like encountered such issues. So I think this is something like one should keep in mind, like which route they want to follow. Like if you trust the person, that person will check out for you, will reach out to the HR, and I think then definitely trust on that particular resource that you have in that particular organization. But if you don't trust that path, then just stick to one path of LinkedIn or Naukri.com, and definitely I think you will get some response.
Sure. So what you have explained is the referral path. So in your
Yeah.
experience, the freshers would definitely like to know that referrals work faster than the applying on LinkedIn or Naukri. Is that so?
Yes, yes, I would say definitely yes.
Okay, okay. And when you have encountered such a situation when a person has approached you and the LinkedIn HR as well, and then at the later stage there was a conflict over the same profile, what happened finally to that profile or to the process?
Yeah, even those profiles were taken into consideration. So it's just that the person who is referring will maybe will not get the referral amount or
Okay,
any
okay,
like bonus to which he is alluded to. So
okay,
so I think that's the part. It does not it doesn't happen that the company will blacklist you or something. But yeah, they'll see that the HR will see that okay, they already have, and definitely still if the that other person is interested, that they can maybe push the HR to to see if the interview for that particular candidate can be conducted.
Sure. So when I know Jatin from 2013 and now Jatin
Yes.
2023, what three
Yes.
things you feel it has changed in you completely?
So yeah, definitely I would say from I think definitely I would say like from the start of my career, like even like joining MBA like in 2013, and I think at least when I joined MBA, I had that clarity in my mind that
Sure.
okay, I want to pursue my career in finance. So this was something like which I was not waiting for my like first semester or second semester to end and then decide okay, I want to make my career in marketing, HR, or finance. So I had that clarity well in advance before joining the MBA. So this was something I was sure of, that whatever be the case, I have to make my career in finance, whether it be any firm, whether it's Indian or MNC. So this is something with which I was very particular and clear. Post that, I would say like yes, I started my journey as an analyst, and even the thing I would say, like even when I started my career, like I was enjoying what I was doing. At least
Okay.
I was able to link that. So because like I did had a practical experience of doing those things personally, so
Okay.
I was able to link these things that okay, like in India it's happening. Let's say at that time, like in Indian equity market, like it used to settle on T+2. So uh, I had that connect, okay, that equity settles on T+2, and I was like also confirming the trade. So these were some things like where I was able to connect the dots very well. And of course, having these like challenging moments, like I would say like a lot of late night working and and working for the like organization wherever I was, like just to make sure that business is not impacted and like we are making the best of what we can do.
Sure.
So I think those things like definitely has added confidence, like has given me the more onus, because starting your career as analyst and now like handling a team like where there are kind of like two sub teams are reporting and two managers are reporting to you. Uh, definitely I think it has been a drastic shift in my communication. I would say like drastic shift in the way I look at things now, because
Okay.
I think I think initially it was tough for me to shift to make a shift from a doer to a reviewer, because it's easy to do things yourself, and because like you're sure like what you have done and you're comfortable with the data. But like when you are at the review stage, uh, I think the data gets to at least 10 bounds and 11 bounds, and you have to, and you cannot go through each and every number thoroughly. So you have to kind of like make some judgment calls over there that okay, is this look is this is looking reasonable. So I think these are the changes like which I would say I have experienced like from a fresher to the place where I am today, because at this stage like you cannot do each and everything on your own, so you
Sure.
have to trust on other folk. Then of course you have to keep certain checks in place which only like you are doing, and and those checks kind of like are the baseline on which you survive.
Wonderful. I am extremely proud to witness that you have become a reviewer from a doer, and the kind of confidence, people management skills, the value of your time you have really generated for yourself, for the organization, and for even people around. I think this has given a great boost to your profile. And I also see that the kind of intense knowledge you have generated for yourself and for the organizational and the functional goal is something unexceptionable, Jatin. So before we part away today, I want you to give three important tips to our freshers or beginners or people who are already in the industry, which one can never compromise with. Just three important tips to them, or maybe three suggestions or three guidelines to them.
Yeah, so I think three suggestions I would say. Like first one, I would say like I would say them to be let's be updated. Like whether it's to stay up to date, I would say like whether it's finance, whether it's marketing, whether it's HR, any field, like at least one should be up to date. Maybe like follow certain pages on LinkedIn wherein they get to know the feeds. So like just for an example, I would say like even if I'm in treasury, I do follow like pages like Strategic Treasurer or Treasury Today or a number of pages, which kind of like keeps me updated upon like what is going on in the treasury world, what are
Oh,
the new advancements, what are the new developments that are taking place. So even if like you are in academics, one should be at least up to date like with what they want to achieve, and they can like at least follow the pages like of Bloomberg News, like Economic Times. One should be up to date with these things, so they should not be compromising on staying up to date part. The second thing I would like to say is like one should always like focus on trying to improve their communication, because the communication is the key. Because even in any business, if you are very good in communication, I think it would kind of like consider that 60% of the job is done. Because I think what uh, I think what is kind of like the major source of errors in the industry is lack of communication. Because the certain person will assume, okay, this is something like which is understood, or like which the other person will do for sure, but I think there is nothing as assumptions in finance industry or in any industry. So communication is the key role. So definitely one cannot compromise on communication, and then the basic knowledge and the interest and the zeal in which profile anyone want to pursue. So let's say like if someone is good in HR, like I think they should know each and everything, like from starting like let's say from recruitment to payroll management and the general HR roles as well. And if someone is in marketing, they should have like good knowledge of tools, picture presentations, and they should be well versed like with sales pitch and everything if they want to make their career in marketing. And likewise in finance, like one should be having good knowledge of financial markets, one should have good knowledge of accounting standards, one should be having like how good one can save on their taxes if they are like in finance field. So I think these should be the area of interest. Like I think the basic, I think half of the war is won. Like if one knows that okay, this is the area of the interest that they want to pursue, and actually they don't get tired like when they are working on certain stuff. Like if you know that okay, if you are comparing balance sheet and if you're sitting straight for 7 hours, 8 hours, and you're not getting tired after doing that work, I think then one should see that okay, yes, this is the area like where I want to make my career. But if you are just not able to, you just want to be in that industry just because of the glamour, you if you see that okay, like investment bankers are like using a Mercedes, or they're getting a paychecks in crores, but if that is the motivation, but you're not liking that field, I think definitely one should explore other areas.
I think wonderful piece of advice, because freshers and beginners, they are definitely attracted towards the glamour part of every profile, every job,
Yes,
every function, every industry. But they need to realize
correct.
that if they want to be stable into that particular function or industry, only the knowledge is going to play the core role. And I'm also
Agreed.
happy that you have shared a bit and pieces on the kind of saving taxes these people can definitely go ahead with. And
Right.
before I close the session, Jatin, I have no words to thank you for sharing such great, too much of knowledge in such short span of time with a beautiful delivery. And I really feel that yes, I mean, you were always very, very confident, but the way you deliver your confidence is something which you have really built up in these years, and not a single compromise on your knowledge part. That is something really appreciable. And I'm sure people who are listening to this video, they will definitely come up with their doubts, queries in the comment section below. And if needed, I can link them to you directly, maybe on your email ID after your permission only. But the people who want to
Yeah,
have
sure.
more such queries can write an email to us on the email ID given below, and we will link your queries to Mr. Jatin directly. And on behalf of Leaders in Making, I thank you for each and every moment you have given to this channel, for making the youth of our country and for people around the globe in learning what is the reality of the specialization finance, and how one can switch from one core area to the other core area just on the basis of passion and learning more and more every day on the knowledge part. Jatin, I heartily thank you for all the information sharing, and I really hope that we will be calling you time and again as per the mutual schedules.
Sure. I think I would say I'm looking forward to all these further sessions, and like thank you very much for having me on your first postcard.
Thank you so much. We'll see you soon again.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, for looking at the channel. Thank you. Bye-bye.